Hi guys, and today we will be taking another look at 𝗲𝗓𝗔𝗡, specifically to take a look at the one token to see the price action of what's been going on most recently. Guys, if you find this video useful and informative, do go ahead and hit that like button. I really do appreciate it. If you're new, make sure you've subscribed, hit the bell, tapped on all notifications, and you won't miss another 𝗲𝗓𝗏 update. Right guys, with all this said, done and out of the way, let's jump down into the charts and see what's been going on here with 𝗲𝗓𝗏. And guys, this video is brought to you by 𝗕𝗫𝘀𝗀𝗏. Now live on the Binance Smart Chain, you can swap, stake and earn on 𝗕𝗫𝘀𝗏 for extremely lucrative rewards. Now 𝗕𝗫𝘀𝗏 is VenomDAO's latest initiative after establishing ViperSwap, Harmony's leading decentralized exchange. Head over to 𝗕𝗫𝗀.exchange and start earning rewards today. We're here starting with the weekly chart. It's always good to get a good overview of where things are going and to understand the bigger picture. So on the weekly chart here, we can see that basically 𝗲𝗓𝗏 has had a pretty interesting time since 2020. Obviously the crash of March of 2020 when it was way down here at this low point, really kick-starting the Elliott theory 5 waves to the upside. I've gone through this numerous times, so I'm not going to go through everything on this weekly chart. But what I am going to do is give you the highlights, right? So ultimately, there's a few things that are really important that we still obviously understand and what is going on. And that is to understand that when we were at all of these low points, the beginning of the bull run down here in March of 2020, the low at end of the year 2020, like November, December time, and obviously the low of wave 4, which would have been around July time, okay? Actually, end of June for 𝗲𝗓𝗏. And all of these low points over here, here, and here, they all correspond to the stochastic relative strength index being oversold here, down here, and obviously where we are right now. And this is an important thing to note because obviously after we have these lows kind of come in at these key points, we obviously saw 𝗲𝗓𝗏 really push to the upside on the stochastic relative strength index in line with these peak areas here and the expectations for wave 5, the ups up at the top there. So ultimately what we can see is basically since March 2020 through to March 2021, 18,943% in gains, which was a very, very good return on your investment if you were getting into 𝗲𝗓𝗏 down here at this point, or maybe even just earlier up at this point over here, just before the crash of March in 2020, right? But ultimately, some fantastic gains have been had. And we saw this crash recently, with Bitcoin taking a serious pullback, losing 55% or so. 𝗲𝗓𝗏 also was no exception, right? We also saw another severe crash, but it has taken us down to this oversold area. And at the moment, at the point of recording this video, we are 8.6 on that stochastic relative strength index. We take a look at some of these other areas. We were down at 2% for the majority of correction 2, wave 2 here. And ultimately during the wave 1 pullback, we actually got down to 4.2. Now we was a low of absolute 0 when we actually reached rock bottom into the buy zone just down here, guys. Okay, the buy zone. Once we were in here, we were actually looking to accumulate, right? And ultimately this is because we were down an absolute 0 on our stochastic relative strength index. There was nowhere else to go down lower. You kind of reached the bottom. So obviously we're looking to push the price back up, which is what you saw in the next few weeks, and obviously what was happening right now. The other thing that's also worth kind of noting is that ultimately this upward trend line has been holding quite well for us. This was again something that was kind of kick-started over here in February of 2020. We saw it being tested at the peak of wave 1. We had the breakthrough event just here, beat back testing on it and then confirming our top, pushing back down and testing it twice during this 4th wave correction. So our upward trend is definitely holding very, very strongly, which means we're not likely to now go back into the buy zone. That accumulation zone is over, and what we're now looking for is this area here. This is the closed area where we want to see a closed candle above this area here. This basically then does signal that we are moving up towards that 5th wave. Okay, but that's going to be time. It's going to take time to get there. Nothing moves in straight lines, and it is going to take a while to actually see happen. But ultimately, the expectations are that over the next few weeks and months, we are going to start to see 𝗲𝗓𝗏 basically reach the previous all-time high area and then breach that as it goes up towards that 80-cent zone, and it may even push after that dollar. So there's lots of things to look forward to here for 𝗲𝗓𝗏 on the bigger picture. And it's obviously, sometimes we get a little bit too bogged down in the detail of that hourly view, that daily view, right? So always, if you're ever in doubt, zoom out and take a look at where things are going. In the second half of this year, when we close quarter 3, go into quarter 4, we're going to be looking to have some pretty good, price discovery for 𝗲𝗓𝗏, and I think many people will be very pleased here. So let's jump down into our daily view and talk about what's going on here. Obviously, the daily, we see a little bit more of the detail. We can see us going into the buy zone, but we lose a lot of the history, right? Because I have to scroll all the way back to find out what was going on. But over here, we can obviously see the last few months, and we can kind of see exactly how things have been playing out on the daily view. Now, obviously, the daily view is overbought, right? So we're oversold on the weekly, but overbought on the daily. This is an interesting kind of narrative, but this is something that we've seen happen for quite some time. And again, you saw it over here. We were overbought for a very long period of time. We can also be overbought for quite a period of time here on the stochastic relative strength index as well. And Bitcoin's doing this quite nicely. You can see how it is trying to get out of the oversold area. It's gone up to 42k. We're still waiting for that weekly close candle. If we get a weekly close candle on Bitcoin this weekend, I think we're going to be in a very strong position going further forward. And that's going to obviously span into many of these altcoins, including Harmony One. So that's definitely one to be watching out for. But being overbought here, you might anticipate a bit of a pullback on your daily. And that is going to be an inevitability. It's going to have to correct to come down, this stochastic relative strength index. But with this being said, if we start to kickstart a new trend and we actually start to kind of buck that trend moving back up again, then actually we'll revert back into the relative strength index rather than the stochastic relative strength index. Because the stochastic is ultimately very price sensitive, which means it can be very volatile. It can grow and shrink very quickly. And sometimes you can even see the stochastic go down with the price going up. Okay, so there's lots of things you have to obviously consider. And the same thing goes with the relative strength index. And they work in very similar ways, but you obviously use them under different scenarios. So obviously we have to pay attention to what's going on there. But I think this is absolutely fine. And as long as our hourly and our weekly are in line, then our daily is likely to stay up here for a bit longer yet. So it's interesting stuff. Now, obviously, the resistance line that we're currently facing is 7.9 cent. This is an area that we briefly got above before getting pulled back down into the buy zone briefly. And right now, this is the resistance that we're looking to cross through. And once we go after that, once we pass this, turn it into a support line, we'll be looking at 9.1 cent. Get past 9.1, and then we're into this area here. This is the crucial area that we want to get this closed candle in. This is an area that we were rejected from previously on 4 to 5 different occasions, right? So this is going to be a real key area for it. It's going to be difficult to get through here, but once we are, I think we're going to be in a pretty strong position at pushing Harmony much higher. Now, the Fibonacci retracement tool again looks at the all-time high and looks at the low of the correction, and again it has these price expectations associated with it, right? So we have the 618, the 2.618, the 3.618, and of course the 4.236. Now these come in at 33.3 cent, 51.1 cent, 68.8 cent, and 79.8 cent. Now obviously a little bit lower than the theoretical dollar, the psychological barrier that is the dollar. And ultimately what we're looking for here is to see if we do actually get an extension above and beyond these. Now, my expectations would be that we probably will not. I think that so many people will hold out for that dollar level or maybe a little bit higher. So it's important that we kind of lock profits in on this journey to the upside. And again, watch out the member section. We will cover a few exit strategies and things to do around making sure you can capitalize on the way up and on the way down if you were to miss it. So do pay attention to the member section if that's of interest to you. So ultimately, there are some pretty good price expectations, some price predictions for the second half of this year, quarter 3, quarter 2, going into 2022, right? Because ultimately, Bitcoin should peak in around the December time, which means altcoins will peak shortly after that. So again, we are probably talking January, February, March of 2022 for us to really see the kind of end of the bull run. But again, timing is the hardest thing to gauge. So it's important that we obviously acknowledge all of these key areas for us and analyze the market overall to see what is likely to happen. Now, obviously on this daily chart, there's lots of fantastic things going on. There was a downward trend that got broken. We're pushing up, we're finding the resistance, but obviously there's still a lot of work to be done there. Let's jump down into our hourly view, and here we can see a slightly different perspective, right? And this is something that we can see happening on the Bitcoin chart as well as many of these other altcoins. And that is ultimately that we're actually oversold, right? So our weekly chart is oversold on the stochastic. Our daily chart is overbought, but our hourly is oversold. And as long as our hourly is in line with our weekly, the daily is likely to stay overbought for quite a period of time. So right now, you see we're actually entering a world of oversold. This is likely to get a reversal as we can now have enough momentum potentially to push up towards that 7.9 cent area and go after that resistance line. If we go after that resistance line, push through it, backtest on it and turn it into a support, that's going to be absolutely critical and something that will then allow us to continue the growth of Harmony. Now, obviously, taking a look at this on the kind of the hourly, then here and the now, rather than the longer term piece, it's also important that we also acknowledge the artificial intelligence from the 𝗕𝗓 dashboard. This has actually indicated that Harmony 1 has actually moved up a rating, right? So previously B2 yesterday, gone up to B1 today. So it's moved up the ratings quite nicely and quite significantly. But what does this mean? Well, ultimately, there's a few things inside this data that actually give us a bit of an idea and a bit of an understanding as to what is going on. We finally have that 𝗕𝗓 ratio for Harmony 1 corrected, right? Previously rating of D, now actually rating B2, which means some of the liquidity issues for Harmony seem to have now been resolved. So if this kind of sticks, that's going to be fantastic in terms of allowing us to continue the growth of Harmony. Again, when we take a look at the Fear and Greed Index, a B2 rating, so again, this is now kind of neutral, reasonable. It's not necessarily greedy, it's not necessarily fearful. So this is actually a really good indication that the market sentiment is now shifted and changed after a bit of a 2-month extreme fear scenario. So again, those narratives are now shifting and the sentiment in the market overall is also changing. We also see that the Sharpe ratio has also finally got that correction, right? We're finally above that 50-day average. This is fantastic news because it means it's now less risk to holding Harmony than there was previously. So again, there's some shifts and changes here within this data that is absolutely fantastic and is indicating from the AI itself that Harmony is now in a pretty good, strong position, and it should hopefully continue to grow this way. Now, obviously, that Sharpe ratio being at B2 also comes in handy when we actually look at the profitability of one as well, right? And Harmony has had a pretty profitable year so far. We think about where it was back in March of 2020 through to where it is today. It is up there as an A1 rated cryptocurrency with the best return on investment that this platform can possibly give. This is a fantastic way because obviously it allows us to say that yes, Harmony is still doing fantastically well. It's seen significant gains and it still has the potential to do so going further forward as well. Moving averages have also corrected to B2 and the peak end value demand also B2 as well. So overall, the artificial intelligence here that was updated at midnight has indicated that Harmony 1 is finally moving forward and has pretty good expectations as well. So we'll see if this continues. We'll take a look at this tomorrow, see if Harmony 1 has actually increased further. Or whether it's going to stay at a B1 rating for a little bit longer. So obviously, knowing that the artificial intelligence is saying that things are looking pretty good for Harmony, we can obviously see where it was at around midnight. It was about this level here, and we can see obviously that's where the data really got reassessed and basically pushed it up a rating. Right now being oversold, it has a really good strong opportunity to go ahead and push after that 7.9 cent. So that's going to be a key thing to watch out for. We'll take a look at this volume and you can see here that sentiment, right? You can see how the volumes were decreasing when we were decreasing the price over here. Again, that's a fantastic way to say that things are looking like they've corrected. Now the volume here on the other hand was a little bit problematic. We were pushing the price up but actually decreased, so that sentiment wasn't the best, but this is definitely in line with our expectations. So I still feel that Harmony 1 has a little bit of trouble out there, and I think it has still got a bit of a stigmatism around it ever since pretty much April. But I think after that event and everything that happened over there, I think ultimately we are looking to see Harmony 1 with significant gains in the second half of this year. As I said, Q3, Q4, but do expect kind of all-time highs to start really getting set towards that Q4 area, with ultimately peaking towards that 80-cent zone, at least in my opinion, in the new year. So again, fantastic stuff. We take a look at the Bollinger Bands, we can see how we got squeezed here. We pulled right down to the lower band. We're now above this area. If we can continue to stay above the middle band, we should see another breakout event, right? Which will be fantastic for Harmony. So one to watch out for on that as well. I think ultimately though, all this short-term talk, it's fantastic, it's great, but it's just to keep you guys aware of what is going on those short-term time frames, right? But ultimately, as an investor, I like to look at the weekly. I like to know where we are going because we have months of work still ahead of us. There's going to be days where we are in the green and we've got significant, boosts in our portfolio. And then, of course, there's going to be days where we have pullbacks. All these are going to be, having some kind of emotional reaction. I think ultimately a lot of people in the space do act emotionally when it comes to cryptocurrency and, seeing things on the hourly, the 4 hourly, the 8 hourly, or even daily can sometimes take its toll. Ultimately, by zooming out, we actually get a bigger picture. We understand where things are going, and we have to be very patient. But in doing this, and in, basically dollar cost averaging better positions when we have those opportunities to do so, or accumulating when we find good buy zones, then there's a good opportunities to basically build big positions ahead of our expectations of going after 80 cent to $1. Guys, if you have found this video useful, informative, then do go ahead and hit that like button. I really do appreciate that. If you're new, then make sure that you do subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, tap on all, and you won't miss another Harmony 1 update. Guys, with this said, done, and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.